So we move from a relatively new place to engage with politics to a more traditional one, and that is the role of the family, or specifically parents, in socializing their children. And the major ways we see this occur is through parents encouraging their child to care about politics or to care about the news. And this can be more explicit, like having a conversation about political issues or having a conversation about why a child should consume news. It can also be more covert through observations, through youth observing their parent. Kind of like a monkey see, monkey do thing, or how social scientists call observational modeling. And youth can observe the attitudes their parents have, the opinions they express, the actions they take, and they can see those opinions, attitudes, actions as endorsements for the types of things that they should do. So let me give you a couple examples of this kind of modeling. In our 2008 data, we found overwhelmingly youth tend to adopt the political party affiliation of their parent. So if the parent was a Democrat, the youth was more likely to be a Democrat. Or if the parent was a Republican, the youth was more likely to be a Republican. And we found this modeling of party affiliation from a parent to a child to occur around 65% of the time. And it was especially strong if parents talked about politics with their children. That being said, talking wasn't necessarily a requirement. And this suggests that youth do pick up on their parents' party affiliation, even if they aren't explicitly discussing it. In 2014, we shifted our focus slightly. There we wanted to know how modeling works for consuming news. So do we still see that parents' behavior, the modeling of news consumption, goes from parents to children? And what I think is so interesting about these findings is that we found strong evidence of parent modeling even across all the devices that we were looking at. And as Devon mentioned in the introduction, we've seen a shift from shared, visible forms of consuming news to more privatized, small screens that you can hold in your hand. Many of us can recall seeing our parents consuming the news at the breakfast table, or walking into the living room and seeing our parents watching the nightly news on the one television in the house. Right? These are clear, visible signals sent to their child about the parent's news consumption. Does that same process work when a parent is consuming news over a laptop, or their phone, or a tablet? Right? These are seemingly less visible signals about the types of media a parent is consuming. They could be reading the New York Times on their phone, or they could be playing Candy Crush. It's hard to tell. So we explicitly looked at this. We explored in our 2014 data all the factors that might explain youth news consumption across many different devices. So we looked at parents' behavior, classroom activities, and peer behavior. And we found by far the strongest predictor of youth news consumption was the parents' behavior. So by far the strongest predictor of watching television news among youth was having a parent who watched television news. The strongest predictor of a youth consuming news over a mobile device was having a parent who consumed youth over a mobile device. Same thing for a computer, same thing for tablet. So what this suggests is that parents are still playing the strongest role in news adoption, even as we switch to these more private screens. And for researchers, this does suggest that maybe we need to be rethinking how modeling occurs, because it's no longer occurring around a newspaper, right? So youth may be picking up on these cues in less obvious ways. And that's something as researchers that we need to continue to explore. Now, I mentioned parents play a strong role. They do not always play the strongest role. There is not always modeling from a parent to a child, much to the dismay perhaps of many in the room. We did find evidence, although it wasn't common, we did find evidence in our 2008 data of a Democratic parent and a Republican child, or vice versa. And so we wanted to know what caused this kind of divergence in modeling. And two big factors stuck out, and that was social media activity and classroom activities. So this really points to the fact active engagement outside of the home can really have a large impact on youth socialization beyond that of the role of the parents.